PSNY.
Football is back. How you doing, folks? This is the Jets All the Way podcast, and you're with us, Jeff Magliuchetti and Robbie Sabo of Elite Sports New York. Football is back. You've waited this long. Why not wait just over a month longer as we dive into the New York Jets training camp proceedings right here on the Jets All the Way podcast. Training camp has just gotten underway. I, of course, am Jeff Magliuchetti alongside ESNY editor-in-chief and founder Rob Sabo. Rob, you've been tearing it up in Florham Park. How you feeling?
Good. I'm actually a little sunburned after just 2 days, and this shouldn't be the case because it hasn't been that scorching. But my white, pale skin just can't handle it.
Look at that! Look, you're putting some great visuals into the Jets All the Way podcast. That's crazy. Good for you. I mean, hopefully it translates to the paper as well, to the print. But good job there. And so the Jets have been underway for their first two practices thus far. Going to put the pads on over the weekend. So your first initial impressions. What have you seen out there so far?
I mean, it's so early.
Sure.
You know, the coaches are just putting everything together. Everything's about organization at this stage in the game.
Sure.
The main takeaways, I think, so far, looking at Greg Williams and what he's doing, who he has lined up. There were a couple tweets people were putting out there. He's running a 4-man front. It's not true. It's not a 4-3.
Really?
It's a 4-man front in 11 personnel, standard 4-3-4 or 4-3.
Interesting.
Once they went to base, he ran a true 3-4, unlike his past. So true 3-4, without Poole. Arthur Malay is the nickelback right now. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Do you know?
Arthur Malay?
Yeah, Malay or Mallet. Is it French? I don't know. I think he's from New Orleans down there.
I'm working with someone from the Liberty. Her name is Maureen Johannes, and she just came over from France. In fact, I was up in Connecticut on Wednesday. You know Sarah Kustok?
Sounds familiar. No.
She does the Nets commentary on Yes.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And she also oh yes on Yes. Well played over there.
I did not do that intentionally. Do not give me credit.
Oh no, but that's great. But no, I was talking to her, and she does this Connecticut Sun games over on Nesson, and she was asking me how to pronounce Maureen Johannes, the Liberty's new rookie. She went 6 for 6 on a win last Saturday, and in a win, and I basically told her how to say it. It was great, and I basically told her the few, the proud, the Marine in there. She's done a great job so far. Looking forward to her. But Arthur Malay, first of all, it's not spelled how you would expect it to spell. I was expecting something like Ryan Mallett, but it's interesting in the sense that he is a Memphis alum, 26 years old, been in this league for a few years, and has done a solid job over with New Orleans so far. So, and he has 10 tackles so far. He played 2 seasons with the Saints. And, kind of made his mark as a bit of a special teams guy. But now you're saying he's been working in the nickel?
He is the first team nickel right now. With Poole not there. And Rontez Miles is the first team safety, free safety, center fielder, angel position. Greg Williams loves to play his free safeties in another zip code. Ahead of Middleton with no Marcus May.
No Marcus May? Oh, right, because he's on the PUP list. That's right. So, right. In the end of the day, I think that this Jets team, from what we've seen in the training camp videos so far, it might end up being super scoring because of, the lack of reinforcements on defense. You're basically hanging in there with guys like Malay. I think it is Malay, by the way. Guys like Malay who have, mostly made their marks as reserves and special teamers back there. Darryl Roberts is another guy like that. He was a bit of a special team standout for the Jets last year. So you're working with guys back there who may not have the most experience and may not necessarily be the most talented, at least until guys like Marcus May comes back, at least until Trumaine Johnson rediscovers the true potential that caused the Jets to give him such a massive deal. So I think the offense is really going to be key moving forward, especially if they get into shootouts in such games. What do you think, Rob?
Yep, offense and especially offensive line. And Le'Veon Bell spoke yesterday,
Yes.
I guess for the first time at training camp.
Yes, that's right.
And, I think that's the biggest takeaways from early on, because there's no strategy, there's no game planning, there's really nothing of that sort. You just see who is where on the field, and you check out the personalities of the new guys.
No, you're right.
Le'Veon Bell is free. He is loose. He is just being himself. He doesn't care. And he's a good guy. He's not a bad dude at all. For the controversy and the criticism he's taken, he's not a bad guy at all.
No, one thing I've noticed, he's been very lively, it appears. Can you confirm that? Like, very lively, always smiling, a burst of sunshine and fresh air to a place that has been all too grim in recent years, I believe.
Yeah, and I just wrote it actually just like an hour ago.
Mm-hmm.
He's free. He escaped football prison that he suffered through for a year.
I think it's a stretch to call it prison, maybe football purgatory, I think would be the better word to describe it.
There you go. Purgatory is fine.
Yeah, purgatory, it's in the sense that, the Steelers were a good squad. It's just that he wasn't getting everything he wanted. And now I think that's going to make him a better player, make him more determined moving forward. And I think one of the most telling things in his opening presser is how much of an offensive load he is willing to take, because I think the Jets are very much going to rely on him this year. What do you say? Somebody he wants to carry the ball like 500 times this season?
Yeah, well, with the Steelers are not prison whatsoever. His year missing football.
Yes, of course.
The contract and all that stuff. Yeah, he made the comment 500 times.
Woo.
He's all in. He's full of personality. He's loose. He wants to do whatever he can. Obviously, 500 is a pipe dream. But yeah, he's ready to get at it, and we'll know tomorrow when the pads come on and the fans are there, and we'll see Le'Veon and how he does and how he acts too.
No, I just think it's super interesting that you mentioned 500 is a pipe dream, and we were talking about, I believe, in the last episode of the program that I think 8-8 would be such an attainable goal for the squad and something they can aspire to. Now, again, playoffs, I think that right there is the pipe dream, in the sense that there are just too many quote-unquote established contenders right now. The Jets, at this moment, they strike me as a team that is in the quote-unquote one or two moves away category, in the sense that I think they're just missing a couple extra pieces for them to truly contend. And I think that that move could well be on the active roster right now, because if Quincy Enunwa or Robbie Anderson suddenly break out this season, then you have an elite receiver, which I think is very essential to many NFL teams this year. I know many have said, the quarterback's more important, and that's fine. It's totally fine to think that, but so many teams have gotten by with so many more elite receivers in a way. You need a playmaker to come out there. With New England, for example, take a look. It's a revolving door of newcomers every single time. Of course, you have the constants. You have the Julian Edelmans. You have the Rob Gronkowskis. You had the Wes Welkers. But for 1 year, for example, you had Randy Moss. And Brady has turned so many lesser-known receivers into big names. Like, remember, there was those years they dealt with, Jabbar Gaffney and Rashae Caldwell. If the Jets can have that, they can move out of the 1 year away category. And I just think in the sense that Bell makes them a much better team, and 500 is such an attainable goal for them. I believe the Jets over-under in wins at this point is 7.5. I do believe they can make that owner. That is a realistic goal for this team that I think they can achieve.
Yes, and when we're talking about one move away,
yeah,
how about Trent Williams?
Yeah.
If there was one long shot, I'd call it a long shot right now, but knowing Joe Douglas and his background, if there was one player that could be acquired, they have enough money, they'd have to give up a mid third. I don't know, maybe second. I don't know what the Skins would want. Trent Williams would be that guy. He could transform this offense. You stick him at left tackle. You have Trent Williams, Osemele on the left side.
Oh my goodness.
That moves Beachum and Shell battling it out on the right side. Winters, Harrison. That old line turns from we don't know and they suck to it could be really good.
Yes,
that is the one move that I think could really propel this team to the playoffs.
No, you're absolutely right. And we discussed during the offseason that the best quarterbacks always seem to have, a lineman that they come up with and helps them in the early stages of their career. Trent Williams wouldn't be here for, the duration of Sam Darnold's entire career, but he can be that guy that gives him the confidence, the security, and stability that could make a young quarterback more confident in this league. Now, because for Darnold, yes, we can go on and on about how amazing 3 of those final 4 games looked. Let's keep in mind he did struggle in his rookie season, and there were potential for people to say like, "Oh, this guy might be a bust early." I'm not saying that is the case. He just needs to be a lot more confident than he is right now, and Trent Williams could be that guy. He can come out there. He can be the blocker and add that sense of special security to this Jets offense in making things easier for Darnold and Bell. They're going to be the 2 guys that, are very crucial to this offense. Guys are going to be dependent upon to take a far bigger load, maybe more than they've ever been accustomed to in their football careers. Like, for example, Darnold had plenty of help at USC. Bell had plenty of help over at Pittsburgh, as we discovered in his absence last year. But they're going to be called upon to take on a massive amount of the offensive pie right now, a massive portion of it. And, Trent Williams can help share that load and be a great job and do a great job. And he was ranked yesterday or some point recently with the NFL Network counting down the top 100 players of 2018. Trent Williams came in the 80s, I believe at number 81. So I'm very interested to see best players of 2019, but I'm very interested to see what they could do. Washington, the Redskins are in a place where they're somewhat in rebuild mode right now because look what they're doing. They're bringing Eric Flowers out there as the starting tackle, and it's going as well as you can expect, I've heard from my Washington sources. So Eric Williams is taken down for Trent Williams in there. So I think that they're in a team that's very much in rebuild mode right now. They're working to make their own franchise quarterback, Dwayne Haskins, more comfortable down there. I don't know how Eric Flowers is going to accomplish that, but they're going to want to start things fresh, start things anew down there. So I think it might take a lot for the Jets against Trent Williams, but this is an investment and a risk I think you can very much take.
Yeah, what do you think it would – I mean, what is he upset about? He's upset about how the doctors didn't treat something on his head. He had a growth on his head.
I mean, hey, let's face it. This is Washington, so – we've seen time and time again how that franchise has messed things up from time to time, especially when it comes to the injury front. I think we can refer to, one Robert Griffin III if you want to talk about how the Redskins have mishandled injuries. So that is the issue right now, I believe. Trying to educate myself a little bit more on what Washington is doing, especially in the sense that they play the Jets this year. Jets go over this year. And the Redskins have also brought in Donald Penn to take a look at, and he will be brought in for a workout. So the Redskins right now, I think trading the 7-time Pro Bowler would be the best option for him. Williams seems very upset with this squad right now, and understandably so. The Redskins are a team that's really not really going much anywhere. They're a team that I expect to be in the handful that will contend for the number 1 overall pick next season. So he is rather upset with the medical staff right now. Trent Williams hasn't commented on it publicly, nor has his agent, but that's the gist of what the issues seem to be right now. So if the Jets can, make their mark and, insert themselves into the Trent Williams sweepstakes, this would be a fantastic investment for them moving forward, because the Jets right now, they don't want, having the 3rd overall pick to become a yearly tradition. They've basically been in the 3 or 4 over the past 3 or 4 seasons. They've been picking in the top 10. So this has been a major problem. So I really think that they need to make sure, a good way to make sure that top 10 picks don't become routine with this organization, if they haven't already, they should, set themselves up, give themselves expectations make sure they're sending away, say, the 16th, the 17th, the 18th pick moving forward. So this is a move I think the Jets should definitely look into.
I'm giving up a second rounder for him. I know he's 31, but I have Sam Darnold.
No, you're right. You're
Sam
right.
Darnold, and I have a bad line. If that opportunity presents itself, I'm giving up a second rounder. If I don't have Darnold, and the move wouldn't make such a drastic difference, third, fourth, but second, I would do a second. There's no question about it.
I'm willing to trade away a first for this, I think.
Wow.
It seems like a stretch, but these are the most important years of Sam Darnold's career. This is the most important point on the New York Jets franchise timeline since, what do you want to say? Maybe the 80s, maybe the 90s. This is the period that they put the most stock into, because it's been a long time since there's been this kind of hope in the Jets organization. Yes, it might have been there when there was Mark Sanchez, but we quickly found out that probably wasn't going to be the ideal situation with Sanchez in here. But right now, Darnold has had the most hype. He has had the most, he has had the biggest following. He's had the most believers of any Jets quarterback that has come in here. And let's face it, Jets fans are simply getting impatient because they've had to watch Tom Brady dominate the AFC East, have a bit of a monopoly on it for about a decade and a half now. So they just want to get back into contention. And you need to ensure that you do that as soon as possible. So a first-round pick might be a small sacrifice to make for making sure this period of potential prosperity lasts longer. So I'm not saying I would do it. I'd say I would strongly consider it.
No, based on his talent and his consecutive string of Pro Bowls, you're probably right with the first. It's just in the NFL, I always feel like the value, trading is so difficult. The value is never met with the player.
This is not like the NBA per se, where draft picks are tossed around like a used lawnmower, in the sense that, you could put protections on them. You could put like caveats all over the place on them. First round picks are very hard commodities to come by in the NFL. And it's something that I thought was such a risk when we saw the Dallas Cowboys trade for Amari Cooper and give away first rounders. So this is such an interesting sense. But Dallas was in a position now we're in with Amari Cooper that they might be in the upper echelon of contenders this year. But the Jets want to get back to that. If they get back to that spot, it would be a win for them, as is this season. So first round pick, like I said, Washington is going to demand a lot for him too. They're going to bite the bullet on this if it does come to trading Trent Williams. They're going to say something along the lines of, we need to get back the maximum value for us, especially because we're in the sense of we might be rebuilding for quite a while. And the Redskins pretty much have been rebuilding since Joe Gibbs left for the first time. So there really has not been any extended period of Washington football success down there. So they're going to want something that will speed up the rebuild as fast as possible. And a first-round pick would do that. It would be up to the Jets now to make sure that does not become a top 10 pick they've become so accustomed to over the years. If they could make that, maybe the 20th pick or something like that, that would make it a successful trade. And Sam Darnold would get the stability and security a young quarterback so desperately needs in this National Football League.
Yeah, he just needs to stay healthy. That's the one thing with Trent. He's hurt constantly. And he's 31, so yeah, I'm close. I'm close to your thinking there. Very close. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see what they ask for. Or hey, it could end at any moment, and he reports and he plays.
Oh yeah, if he reports to Washington, this whole conversation almost becomes null and void. But if you're the Jets, you really have to start thinking about making Darnold as comfortable as you can. I thought they did make some strides in the right direction in that this offseason. Before the offseason even began, they brought in Quincy Enunwa, who developed a great rapport with Darnold. They developed a great relationship, and they rewarded Enunwa's play so far. He's had one of the more improbable stories in the NFL that you'll see in recent history, in the sense that, undrafted free agent at Temple, not at Temple, but I'm thinking of Robbie Anderson. Oh my goodness. But Quincy Enunwa comes in, lower ranked draft pick, I believe. He comes in here and he does a phenomenal job in the preseason, makes a name for himself in the regular season, develops strong chemistry with the young rookie, and his efforts were rewarded with a brand new deal. And that's going to make Darnold more comfortable. They also brought in Kaleki Osemele. Good job there. They placed a second-round tender on the aforementioned Robbie Anderson, who also developed some good chemistry with Darnold. Good job there. But they didn't bolster what could be the hidden gem, the hidden infinity stone of this roster, of the NFL entirely, the offensive line. They need to bolster that because offensive line, they're in a sense kind of like I used to say this when I played the game and I was a long snapper. Anyone on the offensive line, I thought this really applied to long snappers in particular. Anyone on the offensive line could almost be like a superhero in the sense that if people don't know your name, you are much better off in the sense that, if you keep hearing your number called during the game, that means there's a penalty. If you keep appearing on the replay, that means you're getting beat by a defender of some sort or a defensive lineman or a blitzer coming in. So it's almost like a sense of being a superhero where anonymity is your friend. And the Jets need to make sure that they bolster this offensive line. It's not, a glamorous position in the sense that you almost never see your name in the box score unless you happen to jump on a fumble in the end zone or something like that, or a rare tackle eligible play. And the Jets want to get in on that fun where they can promote the big names, promote the big skill player names. Like if they would love to see Quincy Enunwa and Robbie Anderson jerseys dominate MetLife Stadium. And if the chemistry continues with Darnold, you will see plenty of more Anderson and Enunwa jerseys over at MetLife Stadium this season. But you have to bolster this line, and especially when you put so much stock into a quarterback commodity, a guy who can be the face of your franchise, ideally for the next decade at least. You need to have as much insurance in him and protecting him as possible. Trent Williams can be that guy.
Yeah, I would say you said superhero.
Yeah, that's
if
right.
they had Trent Williams with Semele on the left side would be like Thor. Right now, it's sort of like Handicap Man from A Living Color. David Williams. So that's the stark difference that I see here, and we'll see. I mean, Handicap Man to Thor. And with Sam Darnold back there, we'll see.
I was going to be nice. I was going to bring up one of the more mediocre superhero movies of our time. I was going to say something along the lines of like the Affleck Daredevil or something like that. But you went to Handicap Man. That's quite interesting. And you went and well played on your vocabulary. Stark difference there. That of course being Iron Man. So I'm looking forward to see, because I'll put it this way: Darnold is basically their Infinity Gauntlet. There, if you've seen Avengers: Infinity War, he's their Infinity Gauntlet. He has the weapons. He has all those stones on his hand, the Infinity Stones on his hand right now, and he's going to be the key for this process moving forward. You have to make him as comfortable as possible. Raw talent, it seems in a way, in this National Football League doesn't get you fully by anymore. You need to have a full team effort, and look no further than what the past Super Bowl champions have been able to do. The Patriots are self-explanatory. The Philadelphia Eagles, they didn't miss a beat when Carson Wentz went down and Nick Foles went in. Sure, you need to have the elite quarterback, but raw talent doesn't get you by anymore in today's NFL. It's a team effort. Do you agree, Rob?
Yeah, and you know what? Frank Polak, I watched a little bit of Frank Polak and the offensive line yesterday. A lot of hopes are clinging to Polak, the coach. He's a great offensive line coach.
Yes.
If they stay healthy, which is very tough to ask, but if they stay healthy, it can be a middle of the pack O-line, as is.
Yes.
So that's the hope right now. And, obviously when I say Handicap Man, I'm just joking around.
Oh, of course.
Today's landscape, I don't know how In Living Color did it back then. Today's landscape, that would never fly.
No, you're probably right.
Man, but Damon Williams, classic, legend.
Yes.
Great show. It'll be interesting. We'll know right away, depending on what Washington's asking for.
Yes, you're right 100%. And look, if we're going to keep doing TV reboots, seems like every single show's getting a reboot these days. I would love to see In Living Color return, get those guys back together. I'm sure that everyone would do such a great job. But you talk about Polak. This is the guy, for example, that helped the Dallas Cowboys form that renowned offensive line. That's all anyone talked about for the longest time. He helped them out a little bit. He joined them as an assistant offensive line coach in 2013, was the full-time offensive line coach from 25 to 2017, spent time with the Bengals last year. So this is very interesting in the sense that they brought someone who knows the importance of an offensive line. And that's why it was so shocking to me that they didn't fully bolster this O-line, the Yosemite deal notwithstanding. It kind of reminds me of the sense that a couple years ago, I was still running for the New York Giants. This was the infamous 2017 season. And there was a big question, how come they didn't bring in Andrew Whitworth? And, he did a fantastic job over in LA and continues to do so. And Whitworth was not brought in by the Giants, and everyone asked Jerry Reese at midseason during his bye-week press conference, he asked, why didn't you bring him in? And he basically said there was no room for him on the team right now, which I don't know how you could even say that. He didn't fit our system pretty much. He said something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing. So I really hope for the Jets' sake that this doesn't go down as a similar situation for them, where they had opportunities to bolster their offensive line, their outside linemen, and really did not do so this year is on such a crucial point in the timeline. I admire the confidence, but we'll see if the lack of activity comes back to haunt them.
Todd Gurley, 2016, 278 rush attempts, 885 yards, 6 touchdowns.
Right. And
2017, 279 rush attempts, 1,305 yards, 13 touchdowns. The same year, they picked up Whitworth, and nothing else changed.
Yeah. And let's face it, Le'Veon Bell's lines in Pittsburgh, very solid. Very solid. So,
very solid. That is going to be, listen, do not be surprised if they struggle in the first month. That is going to take until October for the line and Bell to mesh with each other because he's such a patient runner. He thrives on counters and misdirections and draws because he's the most patient runner in NFL history. Gase is going to have to adjust to that. The O-line is going to have to adjust to that. And he actually talked about it a little bit yesterday, that it will take time.
Right.
So the first 4 games, if it's not happening, that's natural.
I think the first game of the season is just going to be so important. We'll obviously talk about it more once we get a little closer to that date. But the first game of the season against Buffalo is going to be so important in the sense that, it would be huge to emerge from that with the win against a Buffalo team that, like the Jets, is very starved for consistent success. And if you want to put a good note on this season, it cannot end with a loss. It cannot begin with a loss to the Buffalo Bills. Heck, it can't end that way either. They also play in Week 17 in Orchard Park. So I think that that game is going to be so important, and especially considering the rest of the opponents coming up within the first few weeks. You got to play New England twice, NFC playoff teams in Philadelphia and Dallas. You're also going to be playing the Cleveland Browns. So you need to get a win in that opening stage, and no matter how much you struggle, and they're capable of it. They beat Buffalo last season thanks to some late Darnold heroics, but I definitely think this is a team you need to win that Week 1 game if you want to, get the good vibes going.
Yeah, I agree. Whenever you talk schedule, I am in complete agreement with you.
Oh, well, thank you. I guess that's why we work so well. Now, moving on also, the Jets also had some tough news, losing Chris Herndon for the first 4 games. Rob, how big of a loss is this?
It's huge.
Yeah.
Because he's the only vertical threat tight end they have.
Yeah.
The closest thing behind him is Enunwa. Obviously, he's not a tight end, but, throwing him in the slot, if Burnett could go to the outside and they run some 4 receiver sets, like Chan Gailey used to do, that's the closest thing that could replicate it. Wesco is not a tremendous. He's not a tremendous athlete. He's more of a workman-like guy.
Wesco is such an interesting case to me in the sense that he is in no way, shape, or form. He's not the top receiving option. Only had about 400 yards of receiving over West Virginia and 350, let's call it, of that came last season. But he is the other tight end on this roster with the most upside to me.
Yeah, no, completely agree. But I think it'll be a team effort in trying to replace Herndon the first 4 weeks. It'll be Wesco and somebody else. I don't know. Maybe they go Wesco and Tomlinson when they go two tights, or they need a H-back. It remains to be seen.
I mean, I'm interested in seeing what Eric Tomlinson could do. He's not exactly lighting up the stat sheet either. But hey, I guess they brought him back for a reason. And I'm also interested to see what the newcomer Owen Daniels could do. He's been in this league for quite a while, about 6 or 7 years. Had a touchdown and had at least one touchdown at every single one except for last season. But I'm interested to see what Owen Daniels can do. And tight end is really a battle I'm keeping an eye on this training camp. Are there any battles you've had an eye on?
I think the secondary. Who is going to be that nickelback? Is it Malay? Right now, Darryl Roberts is the number 2 guy, clearly behind Tremaine. So when they go nickel, Darryl Roberts stays outside, and Malay goes to the inside. Who else could step up? Who else are the candidates right now with Poole out? Yeah, the only other option I see is Derek Jones being on the outside and moving Darryl Roberts back to the inside. But I've yet to see that take place.
Yeah, right. It's going to be really interesting to look at, and it's going to come up huge in the upcoming preseason games. The Jets' preseason slate, of course, starts on August 8th as they take on the New York Giants. Do not adjust your set. They're playing them in the first week of the preseason this year rather than the third. That's going to do it for us here on the Jets All the Way podcast in this latest edition. You can follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, Elite Sports New York. And as we head out in our latest episode, Rob, any final thoughts? Anything we should look forward to at training camp this week?
Look for tomorrow with the pads on, with the fans there. We'll see. It's kind of the first official real practice of the summer.
And we'll be with you every step of the way right here at EliteSportsNewYork.com. You could check us out there, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and also follow us once more on Instagram. That'll do it for us on the Jets All the Way podcast. For Robbie Sabo, I am Jeff Maglice. Thanks for listening, folks.